Hai, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Hami Rushda binti Samadi. My metric number 1201795. First of all, we want to talk about Abu Hassan Ali ibn Hussein ibn Ali Al-Masudi, or we call him as Al-Masudi. Let's explore about him. Al-Masudi was a historian and traveler known as the Herodotus of the Arabs. He was the first Arab to combine history and scientific geography in a large-scale work. So nice! As you can see, he took a lot of knowledge and experience from his journey to Indian Ocean. Al-Masudi already traveled to south to the island of the Madagascar and the eastern seaboard of Africa and so on. From his journey, he knew more about history and scientific geography in a large-scale work. After he got a lot of knowledge from his journey as a traveler, he had an idea to write a book entitled Muruj ad-Dahab wa Ma'adin al-Jawahir, which is written in 943 at Basra. From this interesting book, he touches a lot related a collection of stories of his adventure and learning about a religion, society, historical, literature, and of course about the geography. So we can take it as a reference in our life.
Review the part of the biography of Imam Al-Masudi. Firstly, a real name of the Imam Al-Masudi. Imam Al-Masudi is the Abu Hassan Ali bin Hussein bin Ali bin Al-Masudi, or Abu Hassan Ali bin Al-Hassan bin Abdullah Al-Maudi. He was born in Baghdad in Iraq towards to the 8th of 9th century. He reportedly died in Fustat in Egypt. Secondly, Imam Al-Masudi, he was a child, show an extraordinary interesting in learning, excellent memory and strong ability to write quickly, and in infinity qualities that lead him to study various types of course or subject. Thirdly, he was to an accomplished journalist and mineralogist. He studied earthquakes, and in one of his treatises, he analyzed the earthquake of 855 century, and he also proposed a theory of evolution from minerals to plant to animals to man. His major work is which is Akhbar al-Zaman, the history of the time, and he have an idea for easy readers with reward. The two combines word in list detail in a single book, to which he gave the full title of Muruj al-Zahab wa Ma'adin al-Jahawir. Muruj al-Zahab wa Ma'adin is considered a book that provided the foundation of the theory of evolution. It also tells us about the Dead Sea, and about the first man wheel, which he thought was probably the invention of the Muslim. And last year of his life, Imam Masudi, he write the Kitab Al-Tanbih wal Al-Ishraf, the book of notice and confirmation. In this book, which he summarized, correct, and updates the contents of his former writing, mainly three historical works.
Al-Masudi contribution towards Islamic education. Factor that encourage Al-Masudi to sell and research. Selling is their basic job, especially managing trade, while the knowledge of geography is a skill that needs to be processed in living life, and it is influenced by environmental factor and their living tradition. Next, do research to facilitate their daily affairs. Islam encourages its people to conduct research for the purpose of harmony between faith and reason. The following are the factors that encourage navigation and their geographical research. First, environmental factor. The condition of the Arabian lands surrounded by vast desert requires them to master astronomy, water tracking, weather forecasting, position tracking, and so on. Second, cultural factor. Employment factor, trade, customs such as pilgrimage that inquire knowledge of astronomy for the purpose of knowing the direction and need to live in the desert that requires skill. Lastly, factor of values and attitude. During the Islamic era, the activity of navigation and geography achieved progress compared to during the era of Greek civilization, which was at a level. Islam itself encouraged research, and his method is mentioned a lot in the Quran. So next, summary of Al-Masudi voyage and research. Al-Masudi began sailing between the years 914 to 915 AD. In India, he also conducted research on the flora and fauna of the coast of Bombay. He continued his voyage with other sailors to the Deccan, Sri Lanka, Indochina, and China. He also visited the shores of the Caspian Sea and traveled through Turkmenistan, Central Asia, the Tiberias, and Gujarat. Al-Masudi contribution in the field of geography. His contributions are not limited to one field only, but in many fields, including astronomy, history, human and physical geography. His work, Murush al-Dahab wa Ma'idin al-Jawahir, is considered to be the earliest encyclopedia of geography. His study combines the science of geography and the discipline of history to make it more interesting. He made a study of vast land and studied the difference in aspect of the region, and also studied flora and fauna. He also succeeded in filling in details the area in India such as Makram, South and West coast of India, standing with what was produced by Ibn Qurdabah and Istakri. The next contribution is Al-Masudi contribution in the field of navigation. He also contributed in the field of navigation. Al-Masudi explained about the voyage routes for the Arabs through the coast of Africa mentioned in his book Murash al-Dahab. Al-Masudi has been able to solve the problem faced by sailors about their confusion with the names of the rivers they traversed in the voyage.
My name is Yusuf Mehmet Salhuddin. My number metric 1201804. Analysis on one of Abu Hassan Ali Al-Masudi. The books were Az-Zahab wal Ma'adin Al-Jawahir, or Millions of Gold and Mine of Gems, was a masterpiece of Abu Hassan Ali ibn al-Husayn ibn Ali al-Masudi, or Al-Masudi, whose Az-Zahab book was completed in 947 Common Era in 956 Masihi. Its second edition, containing 9 volumes, was published in Paris in 1861 into 1877. The accounts held in this book have contributed significantly to geography development. The original book is in Arabic language and has been translated into 2 language translations in French by C.B. Menes and P. de Concili. The translation was then divided into 9 volumes and printed in Paris around 1861 into 1877. The first volume book was translated into English by A. Springer and published in London. Part of Murus Az-Zahab wa Ma'adin explain how earthquakes occur. It also revolves around the Dead Sea and about the first windmill, which he thought might once have been the discovery of the Muslim. He also formulated a theory that could could be the beginning basic of the theory of evolution. In conclusion, this book reflects Abu Hassan Ali Al-Masudi knowledge of the world history of geography.
Let's move to this book have 860 pages and have several chapters that have story about historical and geography. Therefore, he had a lot of knowledge and observations of each different country. In this book have two large chapters, which is chapter 1 is about the creation of nature and people in the world. For the second chapter, he described about the history of Islam, start from the end of the Caliphate to the beginning of the reign of the Caliph Al-Mahdi of the Abbasid.
Methodology, the books Murus Al-Zahab wa Ma'adin Al-Jawahir. Al-Masudi has started book volume 1 with the greatness of Allah names. His salvation is upon Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the cover of the prophets, and upon in the holy family. Firstly, Al-Masudi began in chapter 1 with a general account of the contents of this book. Al-Masudi said in his book, "Let me begin by stating that we had previously composed a work entitled Akbar Az-Zaman, where began by describing the shape of the earth, its cities, wonders, sea, lowland, mountain, and rivers. Then the second of its content were divided by chapter. Finally, the last chapter lists those who lead the pilgrimage from the beginning of Islam until 335 years. Lastly, this book has 132 chapters."
Wow, that's good information. So now, let me explain about writing style in this book. Each book have own character and styles, like Al-Masudi. Write this book with feeling of nations, ideas, and imaginations. He explained about the science of navigations. Secondly, is higher grammatical of Arabic. Al-Masudi using this old Arabic text in this book, like word natayij, it's different from the modern Arabic because now it's word changing to natayij. And also every class have different chapter. It's based on the situation faced by each country. It also have content of public opinions. Al-Masudi commentary on the view of society on the matter of death involves the life of society in a country. And lastly, there is containing an element of criticism. It is because he claimed that the philosophical theory introduced by Westerners originally come from the Eastern countries. So now, what can I summarize on the method and styles that using in this book? It is described about the shape of the earth surface and the creatures of earth, such as waters, hills, cities, human, and so on. He also highlight about the early history of human civilizations. Among them is the way of the leadership, community, society, and others. After that, each statement and history is shown in this book have an orderly and detailed arrangement by starting writing about the history of the Caliph. Lastly, the language used by Al-Masudi is the Old Arabic language. Because of that, before someone translating the book, he should have a skills to understanding the Old Arabic text.
As a conclusion, Al-Imam Al-Masudi or Abu Hassan Ali ibn al-Husayn ibn al-Masudi was a historian and a geographer born in Baghdad, Iran, toward the end of the 9th century. Being a historiographer who considered observation as preceded to understanding the belief of the order, and whose tireless travels to almost 1/3 of the world to experience the real empathy towards other human being. Al-Imam Al-Masudi was able to examine the history of the belief of his own nation in a wider context as one of among many nations of the world.